안녕하세요. 자두입니다.
So today it's my last chance to travel.
안내를 시작합니다.
Today is my last chance to travel in Korea before leaving Korea. So we are going to Jeonju. I really like the culture and I wanted to know more about the culture and see more Hanok because I really fell in love with Hanok. So we are going to go there today and we took a villa. She's so cute. She's kind of like a Hanok revisited. I can die. I can't wait to show you. Let's go. Oh my god, we just arrived. There's Hanok everywhere. I'm like a little child. I'm so happy. Oh my god. Oh, so during the road, so we got some snacks, and you guys are going to tell me that I'm crazy, but those is had this. You're gonna say it's a cookie, so of course, but it's the same taste that the cookie that I don't remember the brand, but I had one in France, and so I got so much flashback from those cookies that I was eating when I was studying and a student in theater. So, but yeah, I'm just crazy. Okay, let's go. The first thing that you see when you arrived in the Hanok village is the hanbok rental shops. So you can see on those two girls, they are wearing the hanbok, which is like a short jacket and a long skirt, and it's pants for men. So people come there to dress up in traditional clothes, take memorable pictures in a historic setting. And of course, it evolved over time, especially during the Joseon dynasty when it took its modern shape, because back then the colors and fabrics often reflected your social class. Today, you don't wear it every day, but it's still part of major celebrations like Korean New Year, weddings, and also traditional holidays. Oh, I saw this one. Oh my god, we are going inside. Oh, so happy. Yeah. So to tell you more about Gyeonggi-jeon, this is a very famous historical place in Jeonju. It was built to keep the portrait of King Taejo, the first king of the Joseon dynasty. At first, in 1410, King Taejong called it Oyeongjeon. Later, the name changed to Gyeonggi-jeon in 1442 under King Sejong.
Another movie.
I understand.
You don't remember?
I remember. Oh my god, so pretty. Oh, careful your head. Oh my god, I love it so. Oh my god. Oh, that's so pretty. I want to live in a hanok. Oh, I love it so much. That's so pretty. The building was burned during the Japanese invasion in 1592, but it was rebuilt in 1614. So pretty. Oppa, can we live in a hanok?
Huh?
Can we live in a hanok?
No.
Why?
No reason.
Oh, go here. Oh my god. Incredible. I can go inside. The furniture are so, this is so impressive. I really like old furniture like this. This is so pretty.
Just look.
Can I go in? Look at that. Oh my god, so pretty. The site includes several traditional structures like the main hall, gates, and side buildings. Today is not only a beautiful example of traditional Korean architecture, but also home to a museum. Inside, you can see King Taejo's portrait and also different portraits of the different kings. You can learn about the history of the Joseon dynasty and explore old paintings and also learn how paintings were made and how they were also colored. You can see different documents and cultural artifacts. It's a great place to experience both history and traditional Korean culture. As a French girl, and I've always been very attached to my culture and the history of my country. That's why when I came to Korea, I was really touched to see how strong the traditions and cultures still are here. In France, we have old buildings and a lot of history, but in Korea, I feel like it's even more alive. You can still see people wearing hanbok, celebrating traditional holidays, and visiting historical places like here in Jeonju or even in Seoul with Gyeongbokgung Palace. It's something that I really respect a lot because it shows how much Koreans value their past, like I do with mine, and I felt really close to that when I first came here in Korea.
What is France nation flag?
Blue?
White.
White and red.
See.
Good job.
See.
Okay. Oh, 있어. Now where do we go?
Okay. Eating?
Okay, we can go. Who is home? Did she tell you?
cathedral earlier that we saw, and it was closed by a big barrier and everything, so we cannot go. I made my research and I thought that we could have just go and see from the outside, but we couldn't. So I will just put a picture that I can find on internet.
We have to go there and like this. What about you?
Okay. So I couldn't resist and we went again. It's very meaningful for me to see this church. It was designated by a French priest called François-Xavier Boudounet. So it kind of reminds me of home, but it's also full of Korean history. I really like how it mixes Western and Korean culture.
So it's so funny because that was the first time that I saw like different museum for like broadcasting museum that you could have broadcast yourself, right? There were a music one, but it was closed, and there were drinking museum, right? Yeah, that was funny. I didn't know that those kind of museum were existed. It's like just a small thing, just into just one room.
We could have just spent one day in Cheonju, so we focused on Hanok Village. All coffee shops and restaurants, well, not all, but most of them are in Hanok, so you can really have this old-fashioned style. And we also make the tour multiple times, so we also went to small streets. It's a real immersion in Korean culture and Korean history, and that feels just amazing.
멜리사
네.
빙걸.
Oh my god. This is so cute. Ooh. Oh my god. Did you? Oh, I can't die. Ooh. Cute. Wow. Oh my god, so pretty.
During our stay in this little house, the owner had left a small notebook where guests could have leave a message. So of course, I had to read through it, and I always do that kind of things. And naturally, I left my own message too. What really touched me was that most people wrote in their native language. So I did the same. I wrote in French. And I don't know, it feels really special. Like, even if we're all from different countries, we were sharing something simple and human by just leaving a few words behind. So it was a small moment, but very special.
오빠야 거.
네.
그러니까.
Oh, 15.
15.
15.
거기네. 토토로.
The night are so silent and so cute. And now we are going cafe. After winning Totoro. You want to try?
It's just Einspener.
Huh?
Einspener. Einspener. This one.
So tired. And so that is the cathedral by night, and we can see more details about that. So pretty. We had some souvenir gifts. So my boyfriend gave me like a hanji little note because we went to a center, to a shop that was doing like the real, it was the real one, right? And also I gift myself those. It's like, oh, it's like the magnet one with like the traditional mask. That reminds me, I like it because that reminds me when I was doing theater and I learned to do masks, and I don't know, I kind of miss it and I found it so interesting, so I wanted to give myself a little treat too. So we are on our way back from Jeonju to Seoul, and I think we went traveling the perfect time because it's raining so bad right now. I'm so happy. Anyway, so there are things that surprise me here in the highway in Korea that as a French girl I've never saw that before, and I don't know, I just wanted to share it. So the first one is that, so as a warning, on the highway there are stripes, and that when you pass with your car on the stripes, that plays like a little music. I don't, what is the music? Is that
That music just warning.
okay, never mind. And also, I love like the concept of the high pass. Like in France, we have something kind of the high pass, but we need to pay every month plus when we pass through to pay. But here in Korea, it's just so fast, you don't stop or anything, and I love that it's just so fast, no worries. This is incredible. I don't know how it works though. Just with the, yeah, but I don't, this is, but you pass so fast to pay. This is incredible how fast everything works. In France you need to stop or like really be really slow. Me, most of the time I just stop, pay by card, and I go back.
Because Korea like very
found this incredible. And the last thing that I wanted to talk about is that you have like family graveyard, which in France it doesn't exist, or well, not maybe into like big rich or private family, but that I don't know. But for common people, we just have in town the graveyard, and that's everyone from the town that is there. But I saw that here in Korea it's just like family graveyard, like everyone has their mountain, and I find this is so pretty. It's really intimate and like individual thing. I think like this is a really good idea though, because sometimes when I was going in a graveyard in France, sometimes you meet people and everything, and it's kind of a weird move where you don't especially want to have like someone see you. So yeah, feel free to tell me what do you think about that. If you have any like question also, just go and comment and I will read them and try to respond to everyone. So that's it for our trip in Jeonju, and I think the next part is that I'm gonna go back to